Hello, good morning and welcome to the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you live from Abuja. I'm Comfort Amodu.
And I'm Rhoda Anonam. Thank you for joining us. First, the headlines.
I was delighted, more than delighted to see that his energy, his passion, his drive, his counseling, his guidance has not gone down the drain.
President Buhari receives Nigeria's certificate of improved security in its civil aviation, expresses satisfaction on initiatives in the sector.
Senate passes Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act Amendment Bill.
If that law has said 15 years, we have to bring it up to 10 years.
The review period is increased from 5 years to 10 years.
Federal government reassures continued collaboration with state governments to combat all forms of security across the country.
And federal government and organized labor continue discussion on minimum wage.
The federal government's committee and organized labor discussion and consequential adjustment of the minimum wage will continue today.
So far, the commitment has been shown that we will believe, and the areas that are still in contest are critical. Therefore, government are urged to also, on their part, see how they can shift ground positively in order to mitigate the agitations ahead.
Welfare of workers. So we've worked very well together today. Both sides have made a lot of concessions, but we discovered that there are some gray areas that need to be ironed out.
President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed satisfaction with the revolutionary initiatives introduced by the Ministry of Aviation aimed at enhancing the desired safety and security in the nation's aviation sector.
State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports this while receiving a certificate of improved security in civil aviation presented to Nigeria by the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Before the coming on board of the Buhari presidency, aviation security in Nigeria was, to say the least, fraught with challenges. The 2016 Turkish airline incident, where some aggrieved passengers overpowered aviation security to gain access to the tarmac at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, was one of the instances that are bound to buttress this claim. With that as a wake-up call, far-reaching measures were therefore introduced by the Ministry of Aviation towards enhancing the safety and security in the critical economic sector. These include the development of security template, engagement of experts, and capacity building, which resulted in the country gaining due recognition in the world map of aviation community. Consequently, after a series of screenings and checks by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Nigeria achieved 96.4% in aviation security. And this certificate of improved security in civil aviation, received on behalf of Nigeria at the ICAO Congress in Canada, is formally presented to President Muhammadu Buhari by the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika. Nigeria is one of the 16 countries certified out of the 196 member nations that were surveyed by ICAO.
Mr. President was delighted, more than delighted to see that his energy, his passion, his drive, his counseling, his guidance has not gone down the drain. It has achieved us this certificate. It has brought about fame. It made us more secure. It has improved our aviation system, and we've scored 96%. So he was very, very glad and delighted that we achieved this. He said, congratulations to Nigeria. I'm quoting him by his own words.
On safety, the minister, Hadi Sirika, told journalists that Nigeria is also above global average of 60%.
In Nigeria, the last audit was 67%, and we are rising. It is our hope and belief that before the next 2 years, we should be able to score 96-97% also in safety. Part of the things that we did for safety is, for the first time in Nigeria, for the very first time, government in, government out, they tried to certify our airports according to standards, and they all failed. Within the administration of His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of Nigeria, we were able to certify 2 of our airports. We certified Abuja and Lagos, and we'll soon certify Kano and Port Harcourt. This is extremely important because safety and security are the main concerns in civil aviation.
He said apart from aviation safety and security, his ministry is also committed to working with critical stakeholders towards guaranteeing passenger facilitation and comfort as well as efficiency. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The federal government is reassured that it will continue to work in collaboration with state governments and stakeholders to combat all forms of insecurity across the country.
This was the submission of some federal cabinet members at a special town hall meeting on security to appraise the fight against banditry, cattle rustling and kidnapping in the northwest. Anthony Forson reports.
Hosted by the Katsina State government, one of the frontline states hit by activities of bandits, cattle rustlers and kidnappers, the convener and Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, in company of the Ministers of Interior and Defense, engaged the citizens, with Lai Mohammed leading the way.
As all are aware, one of the cardinal programs of the Buhari administration is to tackle insecurity across the country. Whether it is Boko Haram, banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling, or armed robbery, the administration has faced the challenges posed by insecurity with grit and determination. The federal government is unrelenting in tackling these challenges because without peace and security, there can be no development.
Defense and Interior Ministers on their part say the federal government's effort in safeguarding lives and property of the citizens is paramount.
I wish to assure you all that the Ministry of Defense and the entire armed forces are committed and will remain resolute in our efforts to facilitate the attainment of the federal government drive to guarantee the safety of lives and properties across the country, as well as to protect the country from both external and internal aggression.
We are here to look at security and to let you know that our administration is fully conscious of its responsibilities to you on the issue of security. We know that human beings readily give out their freedom and liberty, that the governments take appropriate care about their security so that they can live a fulfilled life.
For governors of Katsina, Zamfara and Sokoto, who are all among the frontline states, their submissions were that of a people heaving a sigh of relief after the intervention.
Kidnapping and armed banditry have reduced drastically to the barest minimum. Normalcy and the relative peace have returned in the 8 frontline local government areas. Markets which hitherto were not being patronized due to the menace of cattle rustling, kidnapping and banditry have now continued to witness large number of people from all walks of life, thereby increasing economic fortunes of the state.
The wave of attack has drastically reduced as a result of dialogue and reconciliation project of my administration. There are still pockets of challenges that crops up from time to time, but we are currently working very hard to consolidate the atmosphere of peace which has been regained within the first 4 months of my administration.
There's also the need for us to provide adequate funding for them to have equipment and hardware.
We know the challenges, we know what is going on. They cannot fight this war without being properly kitted, without being properly refurbished in terms of the hardware, in terms of the equipment that they require.
Taking comments from the crowd, some suggested an all-inclusive approach to combating the menace, as well as increased funding and more recruitment, even though they expressed satisfaction with the efforts of both the federal and state governments. In Katsina, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, met with security chiefs over security concerns. Senator Lawan held a crucial meeting with top officials who were directly charged with the security of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The meeting, which held at the Senate President's office, was also attended by key officers of the Senate. The Senate President said the meeting was to address the current security challenges in the FCT and chart the way forward. It is a follow-up to an earlier meeting held last week, adding that the idea was to engage those who are directly dealing with security issues within the FCT. In attendance were the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongunu, FCT Minister Mohammed Bello, Director General of the Department of State Services, Yusuf Magaji Bichi. Others are the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Peter Ogwanyo, who represented the Inspector General of Police, FCT Commissioner of Police, Balad Shiroma, and the FCT Permanent Secretary, Chinyaka Oha.
And still on security, an ongoing National Development Summit of Traditional Rulers in Abuja is proposing incentives for intertribal marriages and entrepreneurship as pathways to national integration and stability.
Chimdima Undubisi at a two-day summit reports that it's also looking at the way out of Nigeria's security challenges.
Nigeria's traditional institution setting an agenda for the nation's future. The issues being raised are on how to curb terrorism using humane means while entrenching religious harmony and promoting intercultural affiliations. They are also in support of the federal government's policies and programs, especially the autonomy given to local governments. These monarchs say they are committed to the nation's development.
We tried to make some suggestions like speeding up constitutional review and also gang control.
We have to consider adopting the strategy of intensified campaign for behavioral change.
When there is moral behavior in the society, I tell you, the society will be calm.
For the federal government, these are dependable allies in nation building and with proximity to the grassroots. They are therefore reliable in the area of surveillance and intelligence sharing with security agencies, especially now that priority is placed on community policing. Nigeria's Vice President, in a message presented by the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, wants the traditional leaders to throw their moral weight behind government developmental programs.
We have trained a corps of local mediators that will help in peace building, alternate dispute resolution structures in the states.
The two-day summit is expected to come up with recommendations for consideration by governments at all levels. In Abuja, Chimdima Ndubisi, NTA News.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria is fully cooperated with the International Criminal Court preliminary examination into issues related to insurgency in the Northeast to ensure the process is forthrightly concluded. The Vice President said this when he received a delegation from the International Criminal Court led by its prosecutor. Discussions at the meeting centered on Nigerian support and cooperation with the Office of the Prosecutor and the ICC, and the Vice President emphasized that the Nigerian government remains committed to its obligation under some Rome Statute. In the same vein, the International Criminal Court prosecutor noted that since the court started the preliminary examination, it asked the full cooperation and support from the Nigerian government and authorities. Other top government officials at the meeting include the Director General, Department of State Services, DSS, Yusuf Magaji Bichi, and the Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Justice, Dayo Akpata.
Nigerians are rapidly embracing recent advances in the financial services sector. To address its attendant legal challenges, a workshop was organized in Abuja for judges in the country. Olabode Arewa reports.
Statistics from the Central Bank of Nigeria put the current level of financial inclusion in the country at 63%, as more people use technological tools for transactions. Judges and bankers in the country converge on Abuja to examine the legal hurdles hampering the effective use of innovation in banking.
The question which we cannot evade, however, remains whether our banking laws are relevant in light of the recent trends and developments in the banking sector, or is there any urgent need for law reform?
This development will require, more than ever before, a robust, well-prepared, futuristic, competent, efficient, and legal regulatory environment to withstand the possible challenges without necessary stifling creativity and innovation.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Muhammad, says that while the current regulatory instruments on banking could address some of the identified legal loopholes, judges must take stronger actions against financial infractions.
The speedy resolution of financial dispute is an economic development catalyst, as investors and other financial institutions will remain confident that their investment are safe.
Regulatory frameworks for financial technology, data protection, cybersecurity, and consumer protection are some of the issues for discussion at the 3-day workshop. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
The legal system in Nigeria is such that encourages freedom of expression and fair hearing as part of the bundle of rights under Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
These and other rights are protected by the courts. In this report, Dele Atumi takes a look at the implication of comments on matters pending before the court of competent jurisdiction.
Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution establishes the courts and vested the judicial powers in them. Litigants in either civil or criminal matters are by these and other sections of the Constitution encouraged to approach the court for redress on any infringement or to avert an infringement. These sections of the Constitution also guaranteed the independence of the judiciary as an arm of government. With the judicial powers vested in the courts, matters before them are expected to be adjudicated upon and determined with the law as it is. While a matter lies within the court of competent jurisdiction, fair comments may be entertained, but unfair comments are not expected, as these could be sub judice. When a matter is before the court, reference to it does not, by the mere fact, make it an offense. A matter is believed to be sub judice if it is still being discussed in a court of law, and it is therefore illegal for anyone to talk about the material facts on the television or in the newspapers, as this could lead to contempt of the court.
Call is sub judice, and it is contempt of court, that the person can be punished for a term of imprisonment or fine. But the most dangerous aspect of it is that it can create a lot of crises that people will not even be able to manage because of the lie it tells against itself. A matter that is in court that has not been decided, you are not a judge, and you have no right to comment on the issue that is yet to be decided by a court of law.
You are said to be interfering with a matter that is sub judice. So, for instance, matter is in court, and I'm out there saying by the weight of evidence, this man is going to win, or blah, blah, blah. Then at that point, you are trying to get the public against a likely decision of a court that may not be as you've been telling the public. At that point, you're trying to bring the court into odium. You're trying to place the court under some kind of weight that is not proper. And that's why when matters are before the court, when matters is sub judice, people are supposed to back off from it and not comment.
Under the law, contempt of court can be categorized into 3. While the first contempt may be in form of scandalizing the court itself, There may be contempt in form of abusing parties who are involved in litigation as well as prejudicing the courts before a matter is heard.
Much as we are permitted, or members of the public are permitted to make, the word is fair comment about proceedings that are sub judice, fair comment. They are prohibited from making statements that are preemptive, statements that will tend to swing the judgment one way or the other.
This is the paper we filed on 12th October 2019. Now, we tried to serve them on Saturday. They locked them in their offices. Only God knows whether it is intentional or not. We couldn't serve them. These are the people who are saying that there is delay and so on. You are locking up your office so that you are not served. You are doing this, and you'll be the same person to go on air and criticize everything on that you yourself know is not right. I mean, forget about political parties. Your own country first.
The legal practitioners termed any comment capable of putting the court in public ridicule on any matter before it as sub judice. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
Now to judicial matters. The Senate has passed the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act Amendment Bill. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Unko reports that the bill was passed less than 2 weeks after its introduction on the floor of the Senate.
A motion on the floor of the Senate in the first week of October 2019 hinted that the unsuccessful attempt to amend the Petroleum Sharing Contract Act saw Nigeria losing about 7 trillion naira between 1993 to date. Few days after the consideration of that motion, the Senate introduced a bill that seeks to reverse the trend. 1 week after, the bill is passed for third reading. During the consideration of the committee's report, Senators disagreed on the recommended 10-year intervals for review of the royalty.
We are here to review this law in line with our mandate. If that law has said 15 years, we have to bring it down to 10 years.
The review period is increased from 5 years to 10 years. I want it to remain as 5 years.
Eventually, they approved 8 years and 12% royalty as against the existing 15 years and 0.21%.
And it's not just 2.5. By the time they start production and the cost of crude goes up, we will be making more money.
A punitive measure, 500 million or 5 years. Because this will deter. It will deter them from even thinking about it.
If this bill is finally signed into law, Nigeria stands to earn additional sum of 360 billion naira annually. The Senate has rounded off debate on the 2020 appropriation bill, passed it for second reading and set 29 October 2019 as deadline for ministries, departments and agencies to appear before respective Senate committees to defend their budgets. The budget has been committed to the Senate Committee on Appropriations for scrutiny. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, described the directive by President Muhammadu Buhari suspending all foreign trips by heads of ministries, departments and agencies during the budget defense as the highest corporation by a president since 1999.
We should insist that the Federal Minister of Agriculture should come out with a roadmap, a plan of what they want to do to change the current environment of our agricultural sector for the better in the next 4 years.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has transmitted the Finance Bill 2019 to the Senate for speedy passage, as he also sought the approval of the National Assembly to give Kogi State 10.069 billion naira as refund for projects carried out on behalf of the federal government. The legislators urged the federal government to declare state of emergency on federal roads across the country as it resolved to investigate alleged non-remittance of 5% user charge of pump price of petrol to the Federal Road Maintenance Agency as moved by Senator Gershon Bassey, while Senator Kabiru Gaya called for the Senate to investigate the circumstances surrounding the kidnap of 9 children in Kano State who were later found in Onitsha. Senate has adjourned to 29th of October 2019 to give the various committees time to scrutinize the 2020 appropriation bill. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Unko, NTA News.
Global growth is projected to pick up to 3.4% in 2020 from 3% in 2019, following projected recovery in a group of emerging economies.
Leah Katun Babatunde reports that the International Monetary Fund also applauded ongoing agricultural reforms, but advised that Nigeria works on lifting per capita growth to achieve government's desire to lift millions out of poverty.
The last three quarters of 2018 saw a sharp slowdown in growth. Tensions between the US and China, financial market sentiments and weak manufacturing activity are the heart of the decision by the IMF to lower forecasts for the first half of 2019. Growth is expected to moderate in 2020 and beyond for a group of systemic economies comprising the United States, Euro area, China and Japan, which together accounts for close to half of global GDP. The fund's chief economist, Gita Gopinath, says to rejuvenate growth, policymakers should unwind the trade barriers and reduce geopolitical tensions. Monetary policy should remain accommodative, but it has to align with fiscal policies.
If growth were to deteriorate more severely, an internationally coordinated fiscal response tailored to country-specific circumstances may be required. While monetary easing has supported growth, it is essential that effective macroprudential regulation be deployed today to prevent mispricing of risk and excessive buildup of financial vulnerabilities. For sustainable growth, it is important that countries undertake structural reforms to boost productivity, improve resilience, and lower inequality.
Drawing from the Article 4 consultation report of the IMF's visiting team to Nigeria and the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the fund is optimistic purposeful diversification is key to changing the status of many Nigerians.
From strong agricultural production early in the year, but growth is not high enough to lift the per capita growth into positive territory, as Gita said. So for some time now, we've been emphasizing the need for a comprehensive package to lift growth. One element of that will have to be stronger non-oil revenue mobilization. Nigeria has one of the lowest